Hey, welcome. Have you ever stopped to wonder what really makes a community tick? You know, what are those invisible rules that shape how we all live and work together? Well, today, we're going to dive deep into the fundamental blueprint of how societies get organized, and it all starts with one big question.
And this is it right here. Is a community shaped by its people, or are people shaped by their community? Is it a top-down thing, or does it all come from the bottom up? Answering this question, as you'll see, reveals two completely different ways of building a world.
But before we get into all the differences, it's absolutely crucial to understand that every single community, no matter how it's structured, starts from the exact same place. Everyone begins with the same basic human goals.
So take a look at this. This is our universal starting block. At the very top, you've got individuals and families just trying to survive, trying to make their lives better. And right below that, you see them coming together, building a village, supporting each other. This is the bedrock, the foundation of any human society.
And it's through this process, this collaboration, that the very first rules and values start to bubble up. They're forged from shared sacrifice, from clever inventions, and from new ways of doing things together. This is the stuff that creates that initial social glue. But what happens next? Well, that's where things get really interesting. Because right at this point, every community faces a huge choice, a fork in the road that's going to determine its entire future. And it all comes down to a single defining question.
Okay, so to understand that question, we need this key term, systemic relationships. The easiest way to think about this is like the community's operating system. It's the whole collection of unspoken rules, core values, and structures that dictates how everything works. So the big question is, where does this operating system come from?
This slide just lays out the two possible answers perfectly. On the left, you've got a top-down system. The rules and values get set at the top, by the community, and they flow down to tell individuals how to act. But on the right, it's a bottom-up system. The values start with the individuals and families, and they flow up to define how the whole system gets built. These two paths, as you can imagine, lead to dramatically different places.
So let's explore that first path, what's known as the corporate community model. This is where the blueprint is handed down from the top. This quote from our source material really makes it crystal clear. In this model, those systemic relationships, that operating system we were just talking about, are established first at the community-wide level, and then they dictate the rules for how individuals and families have to live and work. Let's go back to our diagram here and trace how this works. Just follow the green arrows. You can see the systemic relationships flowing down into what's called the corporate community organization. This structure then imposes its rules and its values onto the individuals and families up at the top. It's a really clear top-down flow of power.
So, what does this blueprint actually look like in practice? Well, in a corporate model, the logic is that members produce for other members. It's a system built for growth and efficiency, which tends to generate a lot of wealth in the form of more goods. The social trade-off, though, can be pretty significant. Because the system's main goal is overall production, it often leads to specialization and division, which can ramp up social segregation, competition, and hierarchy.
Okay, so now let's flip the coin and look at the alternative. This is the second path, where the community is built from the ground up, the cooperative community model.
And here's the definition for that one. Notice the complete reversal? Here, the systemic relationships actually emerge from the individuals and families themselves. Their shared values and innovations are what define how the larger community, the village, is built.
Back on our diagram, this is the yellow pathway. See how the arrows start with the individuals and families? Their actions and ideas generate the systemic relationships, which then flow up to create the cooperative community organization. It is a classic bottom-up flow of influence.
And the blueprint for this model is basically a mirror image of the first one. The production logic here is that members share production with one another. It's not about producing for someone else. This focus on mutual support tends to keep the economy local, and its main goal is actually generating leisure. In other words, less work for everybody. And the social result? Well, because collaboration is baked into its foundation, it naturally fosters social desegregation, cooperation, and more equity.
Now here's the thing. These two models don't just exist in a vacuum. They're active, competing blueprints for how to run a society, and they are locked in a constant struggle for control and influence.
And this is not just some theoretical debate, not at all. As this slide says, both the corporate and the cooperative models are constantly battling it out for the ultimate prize, state interest and power. Whichever model gets the backing of the state gets to implement its vision on a massive scale. And this really is a battle of values.
On one side, you have the corporate model, which champions a society structured around segregation, competition, and hierarchy. And on the other side, you have the cooperative model, pushing for a society built on desegregation, cooperation, and equity. This conflict is what shapes our politics, our economies, and our everyday lives.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Just look around you, at your own town, your workplace, your country. Can you see the push and pull between these two models? Which blueprint do you think is winning?